The information shared on CNS Unfiltered is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Always consult your healthcare provider before making any health or lifestyle changes. The views shared are those of guests and do not necessarily reflect those of Innate Clinical Nutrition or its affiliates. This episode includes affiliate links, which help support the show. Hello and welcome. I am Jenna Salisbury, and this is CNS Unfiltered, a show where clinical nutrition specialists uncover what traditional medicine overlooks. For emerging CNSs, the advice that I hear probably the most often on this podcast is to find your niche and work with it. It comes up all the time here because it's solid advice, both for standing out as a professional and for finding personal fulfillment in the job. More than likely, you're studying this field because of specific fascinations you have with how the body operates, with different health conditions or diseases, with how certain symptoms are connected through nutrition. The more you lean into what you're passionate about, the more you learn. The more you learn, the easier it is for you to position yourself as an expert. It takes a lot of trust in yourself, but the end result is worth it. When you find a niche, the clients that need you the most will come. This is exactly what happened to me when I started my practice. I had learned when I was doing program development for age management that I just loved gut health. I found it some of the most fascinating, and I felt I got to help the most. And that's where I just continue to naturally deep dive. This is also what happened to Jana Jamail, fellow CNS and researcher for King's College London. Today, we're talking with Jana about using her own special interest, neuroscience and mitochondria, as lenses through which she approaches her clinical work with clients. Jana will talk to us about how she got started, how she found applied neuroscience, and also started researching mitochondria on her journey to becoming a CNS, and how she uses these studies to transform the lives of her clients. We'll talk about stress management and nutrition, different therapeutic approaches to client care, and neurological impact of biofeedback. And of course, Jana will share a case study of one of her own clients, telling us how she helped a client ditch 45 supplements. Yes, really, 45 supplements, beat her overwhelming fatigue, and level up her immune system. Stay tuned. Hello, everybody, and welcome to CNS Unfiltered. Today, we have a very, very unique niche that Jana Jamail is really going to present to us today. So she's coming to us from more of an applied neuroscience center. And so having both masters in applied neuroscience and as a CNS, what a beautiful bridge. Just some background real quick before I turn over to Jana to really go through all of her wonderful works here. So neuroscience, like I'm going to back up a second of how and why I am so excited to have you here today and to be highlighting a CNS in the neuroscience field. So believe it or not, when I was going to school for dietetics, back 2005 to like 2011, I worked with adult foster care for brain health. 98% of them were car accidents, but all of them had brain injuries. And that was truly my foundation for 7 to 8 years. That was what I challenged my nutrition on. That's where I applied in. That was my main clientele. And that clientele, oh my God, it just speaks to my heart. And now that I've gone way past that into different areas of the medical world, like the connection of the brain, I think that is such a hot topic right now and so connected, and is very rare to come across a nutritionist in the neuroscience world. So thank you so much for doing what you're doing and for coming and sharing it on our podcast today. And I love to turn it over to you so you can tell our audience all about you.
Sure. Do you want me to just give you a quick background on me?
Sure. So we're going to go over your journey if
Okay.
you're willing.
Yeah.
So really how did you get into both of these careers, right? What made you merge them together? This first segment is just really highlighting your story and anything that you had wanted to give other CNSs who are probably coming out of school. When they come out, they're like, okay, now what? And there's 1,000 things I can do with this degree. So this really just kind of highlights some of those paths.
Okay. So as a teenager, was always into nutrition and the brain, didn't really have any understanding of how to combine those two things. And when I got into college, I went to James Madison University for my undergraduate. And I was like, I'm just not good at science. I'm not good at the chemistry. I'm just not good at this. So I went into business and did international relations and economics, which I did not like very much. Then I graduated in 2010, which was like, the huge housing crisis. So I was like, I just have to get a job. So I immediately, I had an internship at the time, and I pretty much pestered them to no end to give me a job, which they did. So I moved back to Austin, Texas, from graduating, and I went into the corporate world pretty much. I was in online education. So I worked my way up from intern to COO over 6 years. And the year I was a COO, I was like, okay, so I hate this. This is like the worst thing that's ever happened to
Oh,
me.
no.
And, it's like the pinnacle, right? Like you're in a C-suite in your 20s and you've made it and you're like, this isn't it. And so I was like, I'm going to quit, which no one could believe I was doing at the time. And so after a year of being COO, I was like, I'm out. I hate this. Um, and I was like, I think I want to do nutrition. And so I just started taking a couple classes, and I got a low-level certification to be able to do like bare minimum consulting with people. And so I started my company at that time called Rose and Ginger Nutrition, because I was like, I know how to run a company. I'll do that. And then I just kept adding more classes. And my husband was like, so what's the plan? Are we just going to be collecting classes forever? And I was like, I'm just going to go get my master's. I'm going to do that. So then in 2020, we adopt our son from foster care. And I was like, I lost all my clients in nutrition. I lost it all. And I was like, well, if there was ever a time to get a master's degree, this is it. With a toddler in lockdown, I'm going to do this.
Yep.
So I started my nutrition master's at UWS in human nutrition and functional medicine. And I was just obsessed. And I loved everything with immune and hormone. And my obsession with the mitochondria was a little astounding to me at that time. And then I was coming up on doing my final thesis, and I realized, I never got to really do a whole lot with the brain, but I realized everything I wrote about was about neuro, everything. And I was like,
Cool.
I think I really want to do something with that. So I was like, maybe I get a PhD. Maybe I go. And so I applied for PhD programs, but nothing was in like that mitochondria niche that I really wanted to be in. Everything was like really pushing hard on addiction. And I was like, I want to be in like the mitochondria, Parkinson's world. I want to be in neuroinflammation. It just didn't really exist out there for that. And so I got an email from King's College London, and they said, we see you're applying to different things. Why don't you apply for our master's program? And I was thinking, like, I already have a master's, and my ego was kind of like, do we really want to repeat this? And then I was thinking, it's probably the only way I'm going to get what I want. So during that entire application process, I had a client who was starting GLP-1, and I was noticing all of her symptoms were mitochondria focused. So I decided to partner with a professor and write a case report. And that was published and I was the lead author on that. And so that kind of just immediately got me straight in the door at King's College because they love research. So then I was like, well, I guess we're doing applied neuroscience now. So I was running my business on the side, took my CNS board exam, started applied neuroscience. And then while I was doing applied neuroscience, I met this really wonderful woman at a neurofeedback meeting, which if you don't know what that is, Google that. It's awesome. And she was looking for someone to do research on a new case series. And I had just been talking to someone over coffee about my previous research, and she was like, would you be interested in doing this? And I said, sure, why not? And so she sent me these really cool red light helmets, and she was like, give them to whatever clients you want, do whatever you want with it. And they're mostly for depression. And I was thinking, well, I have a lot of like pharmaceutical resistant clients for anxiety and depression. And I wonder what red light does to mitochondria and neuroinflammation. And so I threw these helmets on 3 clients that have been struggling for a long time. They were doing like therapy and EMDR and all these other things, and tracked them and then published those results along with King's College. And so, yeah, it's been a weird research journey along with school and then just doing my company at the same time. And so finishing up that degree with King's has really been focusing more on research. I'm in the middle of a research study right now on pandas and neuroinflammation and how trauma could contribute to that. So more autoimmune now. And then also taking on clients, but really, really focusing on like a niche. Like, yes, I get gut health clients. Yes, I get non-alcoholic fatty liver clients. Yes, I get perimenopausal clients, but everything I do is within like that neuro lens. And so once
Yep.
someone's like, I also have anxiety, I'm like, oh, thank God. Great. And so I really push the neuro with all of this. And so I really try and talk about like gut health and brain health and really push those neuro clients. So I realized that was a very long explanation.
I loved it.
But
I
yes.
loved it. Thank you so much. And I'm going to break down a few pieces of that before we move
Okay.
into your case study, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
So one that we're just fresh on it right now to any like new CNSs that are coming in, or even clients who are watching. Like, I think one of the most beautiful things about the CNSs is that we have very different backgrounds. We are not cookie cutter, right? Like,
True.
I've worked with a group of 16 CNSs at roundtables, and man, do you learn so much from different pieces. Like, well, wait, well, how does that incorporate? Well, wait, you can sit there for 5 hours easily. And
Yes.
so, like, finding that correct person, like, I love the gut and I can't help it. Someone comes in, we're starting with the stool test because that's my lens. And then I have my own system that I work through the body, adrenals and brain and hormones, thyroid, right? So we have our systems, and it sounds like that's the exact same for you too. And that's beautiful. I love that part about the CNS profession, field, and people. I wanted to bring us back a little bit. So for anybody out there who's listening and they're like, what's a mitochondria? How do I spell that? To Google that? What are we talking about? I'm going to let you kind of deep dive and give that overview as the expert to kind of bring us all together before we move forward.
Sure. So I think anyone who's been in basic biology in 9th grade, you probably learned mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So you learned if you're making energy in your body, it's those little baby mitochondria that do that. To level you up, so if you're at a dinner party and you want to be fancy, the mitochondria actually, we believe, could be an external organism that we adopted into our body. It has its own DNA. It is not our human DNA, which is very cool. It makes its own energy for itself as well. And it doesn't just make energy. It's also doing things like signaling your immune system, especially your brain immune system, to make inflammation. It's talking to different neurotransmitters in your brain. So if you don't know what a neurotransmitter is, think of it as a hormone that sends signals to do stuff. Bare minimum.
Yep.
If you know what dopamine and serotonin are, it contributes to that. We'll leave it at that.
Yep.
And then it also, mitochondria also signals thyroid. It signals autoimmune. It signals a whole lot that goes on in the body. So we kind of water it down to energy. But if you're a CNS and you're going, you said mitochondria dysfunction, like, how do I know what that is? So the things that I look at for someone when I'm thinking of mitochondrial dysfunction, migraines are a huge one. That's a huge disruption to the brain network and signaling. So mitochondria are super important for brain network. I also look at fatigue. If you have exercise fatigue almost every single time you finish a workout, that's signaling your mitochondria is really struggling to recover. If you have mental fog and fatigue, I also look at that. So your mitochondria take in different vitamins and minerals to do their job, and one of the best ones to take in to even start the energy process is called CoQ10. So if you have a client who's on a statin, that disrupts CoQ10 production. That's definitely going to disrupt your mitochondria. So those are some of the layers, but you'll notice anything with mitochondria dysfunction is a layered symptom that can look weird, but it's all symptoms combined. So it could be hypothyroid, migraine issues. You might have temperature issues as well. Then you have this weird fatigue going on. And maybe you have metabolic issues as well. Mitochondria is really important for insulin signaling. So you'll see all of these layers and you might be thinking, wow, they have a whole lot going on. And at the bare minimum, you can know their mitochondria is dysfunctional and you could start there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for
Sure.
the basis and leveling us up. You totally just
Sure.
leveled me up.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Like I will, I am not ashamed to know. I do not know everything. And I did not know that the mitochondria had a different DNA and was like an external component to the cell, because you're exactly right. You go back, and even if you're reading like a metabolomics test, right, we're going to see the breakdown. Our macros turned into ATP, and they're going to come through our Krebs cycle. We're going to spit out NAF or NAD, sorry, and it's going to go in the electrotransport chain. And they make it really simple and it very just food based. And this is what your cell needs to give in to the body. But as you very eloquently laid out, it is the powerhouse on every single level of your body. When we're talking about what is converting your food into actual energy to be used within the cell of every single cell inside of your body. And so when we think about that layering or how that's so important, I do think mitochondria is being talked about a little bit more these days, and that there is a supplement for everything, right? But there are so many supplements now that I see that are, mito support, maybe some D-ribose or some CoQ10, lots of B vitamins and stuff. And this is trying to really push nutrients to get that mitochondria kind of revved up for a higher output. But as we know, as a CNS, it's about balance. It's not about pushing a pathway. It's not about overloading a pathway with supplement or nutrients or a particular nutrient to like make it go. They literally come in layers, and there's balancing the body literally from a cellular level. Thanks for letting me bring all that too. And then one last thing I wanna say is Jana is also going to be joining us to go over her research. So if you're as perked up as I am when she started talking about some of her research that she was doing, stay tuned because we're going to deep dive with her on a different CNS podcast. Any words of advice or anything that you maybe want to tell future CNSs?
Pick a niche.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks they can do everything. You can't. Also, you don't really love everything. You think you do. You really don't. You're going to start getting into it and realize, oh, another immune patient, another autoimmune, another heart health, or like another heart health. You're going to find your thing. I think that's the hardest thing for people to hear as well, because they're like, I don't know what I love. And like the more people you work with, the more you'll realize, oh, this is the thing I love.
Yeah.
But I just see so many CNSs who are like, I'm only going to do gut health, or I'm going to do gut health and anything else. And like, everybody's doing gut health. So unless you love gut health more than anything, figure out what you really love. And the world needs more autoimmune. The world needs a whole lot more thyroid. The world needs a whole lot more neuro. I haven't met another one of me. We need some more. So,
Yep.
let's have more of these, please.
1,000%. 1,000%. And something I realized too, like just with my own journey, like I started with HCG and different peptides and weight loss. And at first that's cool. I think every nutritionist probably a lot start in the weight loss, and then we kind
Yes.
of build out from there. And, once you start building out and you get the cool clients, right? Like with the gut and autoimmune and the thyroid, like
Yes.
the hormones, right? Like, ooh, I get to be the detective now and kind of dig. And then you're like, oh, another weight loss patient? Like,
That's
oh,
the problem, right? And then
no,
it's
I
like, I
don't
don't
want
want to
to
do
do
that.
that. And then you level up again because you're like, you know what? Now let me take that weight loss patient without semaglutide, without HCG, without that stuff. Now come
Yep.
to me. Now I love you because now we do have to work through the gut and the thyroid and the hormones and buckle up,
Or you
buttercup.
pivot totally, right? Where you're
Yeah.
like, oh, actually, I'm going to microdose you on GLP-1 and we're going to get into your perimenopause.
Uh-huh.
Or, you pivot hard to something really cool. Like that's something I've gotten to do and have really enjoyed doing. So I feel like you're right. Weight loss is kind of where everyone starts because it's like low-hanging fruit. But then you get into the bigger, more exciting things. And you also see bigger transitions for people with health, right? Like, I just kind of feel like there's nothing compared to someone who's had depression for their entire lives come to me and be like, I don't know what you did, but I am no longer in an existential crisis. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, awesome.
Goddess. Like, that is.
Right? Like, it's
That's
just, I feel like
gold.
there's nothing like that in our industry, right? Where you're like, oh, I did the thing. Just, I feel like we all love that so much.
Yeah, it's our dopamine push, right? It's our I did it. It's worth it. All that school and all that detective work.
Yeah.
I'm doing it. I'm helping somebody like legitly,
Yeah.
and that feels so good.
Yeah.
So we're going to transition now into our case study.
Cool.
Awesome. I'm so excited. So I'm going to keep the spotlight back onto you
Okay.
to know and hear what you brought us today. What kind of case and what are we using?
Yeah. So I've been working with this client a while. She's 19. And when she came to me, she had worked with a functional medicine doctor over the summer. And he had put her on 45 different supplements and charged her $15,000. And she left him feeling worse than when she started, and she was hospitalized over the summer. So,
Sweet girl.
yes, this is who has walked into my life. And so I got like a medical symptom questionnaire from her, and she had, just debilitating fatigue, falling asleep. Pretty much at any point in time, this girl could fall asleep. Dizzy all the time. Walking through a mall, girl would just faint. She is underweight. She could not put on weight. She lost 21 pounds in a year. Eating, doing everything she was normally doing, could not put on weight. Really bad acne, depression, a lot of anxiety. We have a host of things going. Really
Okay.
bad nasal congestion as well. And that's something I really want to highlight that a lot of people miss. And
They
that
do.
is huge for us and something that I think should be asked pretty much initially with almost every client.
1,000%.
So that's her profile. So I had her do a GI map, an organic acids test, and a mycotoxin panel. And her mycotoxin panel came back with 3 different mold exposures that were pretty high. And her organic acid test showed me that she was just depleted in antioxidants, vitamin C, just a lot of the basics, but all the building blocks that we need. She was just depleted. The thing I love about an organic acids test, if you have not ordered one in Neuroscience, is it tells you everything you ever wanted to know about mitochondria in someone's
Pretty
body.
much.
So I was able to see, is she making energy? Is she doing it efficiently? And pretty much what I saw was her mitochondria are so burnt out. They're running on empty. They're really not running at all. And so from there, I got her GI map, and she had H. pylori, and she had dysbiosis. So we have quite the layer going. On top of
Woohoo.
that, we have really low blood pressure. So I'm looking at her from a lens and I'm going, your body is screaming for help. We could have you drink from a fire hose, but I have to start with like the basic building blocks.
Yeah.
So with her, what we started with is we started with just stabilizing her gut. So I know this can be a little controversial. Some people do it differently in the CNS world. Some people are like, I'm going straight in for that kill phase. I start with, I'm going to stabilize your gut and open up your detox pathways. Not everybody does that. That's just kind of where I start. So
I do too.
okay, so I started with that and gave her an IgG supplement to just calm things down a little bit and like restabilize her gut. And then I really went hard. Like a lot of people don't agree with this, but a lot of people don't look at aldosterone. A lot of people love to look at cortisol. I love aldosterone. So I'm kind of, yeah, this is the mitochondria neuro weird thing. So
Love it. Bring it.
So I was like, I think your aldosterone is off. It could be from your cortisol as well being off, but like your blood pressure, your fatigue, your dizziness, you are just, I mean, you're a hallmark right now for this. And a lot of people, other CNSs I talked about this completely disagreed with me. And I was like, I'm going to try it anyway and see what happens. So I wanted to raise her blood pressure so we could get nutrients flowing. So we gave her some licorice root, just a little bit, and we tracked her blood pressure. And then I also gave her P5P, so the basic building blocks of B6 to help with, again, that blood pressure, the aldosterone. And then I kind of shoved as much electrolyte and salt as I could at her. So I was like, when you wake up in the morning, the marathon salt chews that people take, you're taking one of those first thing in the morning. So she was taking salt chews all day. We were doing the boring, non-sexy nutrition work of like, eat within an hour of waking up, make sure you have enough protein and carbohydrates during the day, because she was overeating fat, she was undereating carbohydrates, so I was able to pull that up more. And so this is kind of the track we're on. And within about a month, her gut was stabilized. She was having normal bowel movements. She was doing a whole lot better with her fatigue. She wasn't dizzy anymore. She was able to get up out of bed in the morning. She didn't need to take a nap by like 11 o'clock in the morning. She was going to school. So we're having a little more normalcy. Her nasal congestion was just off the charts, and she was still kind of irritable. So at that point, I transitioned to not just doing the gut and the aldosterone, but also doing the mycotoxin work. So for mycotoxin, if people are listening and they've never done this before, you start with the nose because the nose can repopulate that mold. So I just did a really easy nasal spray with her and we just started there. And then we started doing like a low detox. I really like the microbalance citrate nasal spray and then doing like a tox ease gentle detox. And so we just kind of stayed on very low, easy, nutritionally supportive, low supplement, because I'm not going to put her on 45 of 50 of them. We did that for about 4 months and she didn't have fatigue for a whole month. She was a whole different person and I felt really bad that she was on 50 supplements before she came to me.
Oh, man.
But yeah, so within 4 months, she was a whole different person. But a lot of it was just, looking at that mitochondria, detox, how the system is working and like really working with her system. And she did fantastic.
So let's highlight that for a second. So it sounds like where traditional medicine left off was they weren't able to do anything. So then she went to a functional physician. Oh, man. I've been in this field for over 13 years and I've met a lot of physicians. Some functional physicians are absolutely amazing. You're going to shut up and listen.
Yes.
And then some of them you're looking at it like, no, wait.
I know. They just trade their pharmaceutical pad for a supplement pad.
And that's exactly what it is. Like if you're going through, and I know I've done blogs on this and everything, I'm going to highlight it here with you too. Like really get to know your functional physician. Just like I mentioned at the beginning here, like even all the CNSs, we have a different background. We have a different lens, right? Like we're going to approach it in different ways and really find your person, your niche. And like you can move mountains for the rest of your life with that person. When it comes to a physician, we just have to understand the different thinking, and it's nothing new. Everyone knows, right? They don't have nutrition degrees. They're taught, here's a pharmaceutical, here's the magic pill. There's no hand holding, there's no nutrition, there's no lifestyle. Nutrition doesn't matter for some, right? And so you really got to take that into account in a world where traditional medicine, clients are not happy. They're just not happy with it. And so they are looking for alternatives. And it's really appealing for some physicians to be like, oh, you're willing to cash pay X, Y, Z, and then all I got to do is say I'm functional and throw this at you. They're going to do it. They're going to do it. And so if that's a huge red flag. If you're going into an office and they do not have a nutritionist on staff, run. If they're calling themselves functional and they do not have a nutritionist on staff, please run. Or they have a good referral, right? You don't have to run if they have a good referral. The second is if you're walking out of there with 5 supplements off your first thing, no foundational work, no lifestyle work, no sleep work, no food work, run. Run. Because I think people don't understand. They think supplements are safe, right? And they are. I'm not saying supplements are not safe, but the truth is too, they are changing your biochemistry. They are doing work. And it's not like you're taking a bite of an apple, right? And the food gets to synergistically do its thing and your body's innate wisdom can turn on and filter out what it doesn't want and take what it needs. You're literally high dosing a supplement, a nutrient, which is going to push a pathway, push a cascade. And if someone doesn't fully understand that cascade or how even the supplements are interacting in a cascade, you're going to feel worse. You could even start a different cycle, right? Or turn the body's operating system into a different position where you're like, okay, well, wait a second. Now we do have to pivot real quick because I have to stabilize this. And so I love that you highlighted that because the supplement is not, it can be magic, right? It can. And you do the right ones like you did. Like this is the magic one for this because you understood what it required. It wasn't like, this supplement says it should do this. My supplement rep says to do it here. So let's try it out.
Yes.
A little bit different.
Well, and there's also like I've had clients who have worked with like functional cardiologists, which I'm like, that's interesting. I've never met one of you before. And I mean, the antimicrobials he pushed on this client because he's like, oh, it's good for heart health. I'm like, you want them to be on berberine and oil of oregano for a year? Like no. Also didn't do a GI map on that person either who had gut symptoms and then pushed that. And then when they were having symptoms, he took them off and put them on a tincture with berberine in it. And I was like, no, we can't be doing this. Like, no. So there's also like functional cardiology sounds sexy and impressive. Not always.
Yeah. 1,000%, because we have to understand what's functional. And I think in our lens as a CNS, the functional part are the parts you can obtain without, I don't want to say without money, but with like, it's kind of formless. It's things that you need. You need to eat. You need food. You need sleep. You need safety. You know, going back to the basics, getting away from, here's the pharmaceuticals, right? Or even the supplements eventually. Like, we don't even want those. They're just a tool.
Wait, can I please add to that? Because something that I think is so important that you just said is the free stuff. And something I struggle with, even in the CNS world, is I hear all the time, like, how do you get your clients' nervous systems regulated? And I hear people talking about, like, oh, you have to eat, you have to have enough carbohydrate, and like, there's a laundry list. And I'm like, someone who's dysregulated, you just gave them a laundry list? No, they're not going to do, they can't, no. So then I put my neuroscience lens on and I'm like, no, it's stopping work at 7 p.m. It's not what I call it, not shoulding on yourself. People think I'm cussing. I'm not. But I hear so many of my clients who are women who are like, I should have done. And I'm like, sweetie, you would have if you could have. So we're going to put it down for the day. 7 o'clock is your cutoff. We're not doom scrolling on Instagram. What did you have fun doing when you were 5? Is it playing outside? Is it coloring? Do you want to learn a craft? Do you want to go hike? Do you want to go play with puppies? That's what we're doing after 7 o'clock. We're not doing any of the other stuff, right? So like I lean hard into like the right hemisphere because that hemisphere doesn't live in anxiety. and it cannot turn on your nervous system in that way. And so even in the CNS world, people are like, oh, I'll push ashwagandha, I'll push a lion's mane. And I'm like, go outside and talk to your best friend.
Yes.
That's what I want you to do. And so it's also that lens of go into your right hemisphere, which if no one knows what that is, Google it. I'm really like, I'm making that bare minimum. Like, there's way more science to it. It's not right and left separately. They talk to each other, but the right hemisphere is really this part of your brain that cannot live in anxiety. And so if you, like, I started crocheting and I swear, like, weird things started happening in my life. And I was like, okay, there's a science to this. I get it. But I do that with a lot of clients. Like, if you have a client that comes to you and they're like, I really want to get started. I'm miserable, but I can't do one more thing. Start removing things. And
Yeah.
I normally start with it where it's like, okay, work is a non-negotiable. Your evening can be negotiable. And I focus on that. And it's free.
It's free. And I think that's the reprieve that a lot of our clients need, especially the ones that have already seen the functional doctor, had a
Yeah.
bad experience, and they're coming in with literally a binder full of testing, bags full of supplements or medications, tears down their eyes. Like, will someone just tell me what the flippity doodah I have to do? Like, for real. And most of the time, I'm like, I love these. I will look at these later.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I push them aside because I gotta get to know you right now. And what is it mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally? Because all that's connected. Where do we have to throw in the wrench? Right? Like, where in all of that can we throw in the wrench? And I do feel at least 50% of the time, there's no other modalities, or the only other modality is going to be, let's get testing. So I'm not guessing. And then we're going to come up with a cohesive plan with the exact nutrients, the exact dosing, the exact length of time. Because there's no reason to throw spaghetti at the wall. Like, there really isn't.
And some of those, even, I even find with like some of those clients who are autoimmune clients or who are thyroid clients, they're so worn down. Their symptoms are persistent. They're exhausted. Like, they want to feel better and they know it's work. And then at that point, they're like, oh, can I just take a pill? And so you have to get a little creative.
Definitely. I talk a lot about like making sure the body's in the right operating system. And if I've never fully explained that to you all, I think I did a little bit with the parasympathetic and the sympathetic, but really, if the body and that person is in that stress state, that sympathetic nervous system, that operating system, like I can't say any supplement, but a lot of the modalities that you're going to do and you're going to push, the body is just not at a point of acceptance. It's not feeling safe enough. It's not feeling grounded enough. It doesn't have the nutrients for the cells to even hold the capacity you're trying to build. Like, the body has to literally build the capacity. And a lot of times that happens with rest.
Yeah.
Pleasure and rest.
Yes.
And so that's step one. Let the body detox, let it sleep, let it repair, give it what it needs, of course, but that's still food. That's still free. It's still tangible without a diagnosis, right? Without knowing anything else except for how you feel today. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. And I'm going to throw neuroscience in, but a lot of people don't think about this, is if you are in a chronic state of stress, so your hippocampus creates 70 plus new neurons every single day. We call it neurogenesis. And there's certain things that contribute to that. But if you are in a chronic state of stress, cortisol kills that process. So then if you're seeing clients who are more depressed, are more anxious, are in chronic stress, you can know their neurogenesis is probably dysfunctional and they're not creating it. So how do we create neurogenesis? Sunlight, activity, spending time with people, eating food, being creative and learning. So there is that layer to it where it's like, it might not look like you're doing a whole lot with them by just being like, do you have a coloring book? Do you like to color? Do we want to do that today? But you're actually creating new neurons in their brain to help them recover and repair and bring down that stress. So the little things really do add up a whole lot.
They really, really do. And honestly, you can do this with your client telehealth, like while they're doing it. I've had some clients, one particular that I can think of, but a lot of trauma, death, that kind of stuff. And like the angst was so high that it was hard to kind of delayer. And I asked her the same thing. I'm like, do you doodle? Do you have a coloring book? Do you have a word search? Do you have something that you can grab? And she had her daughter's coloring book. I'm like, grab it. And I went and grabbed my son's coloring book. I'm like, let's color and talk. When she was able to focus on that coloring, she wasn't looking at me. I was coloring, but we were talking.
Yeah.
And that in itself, oh, I got goosebumps. That in itself was just unlayering, delayering, and that established our relationship to even have that conversation. And sometimes they just don't even have that safe place to dump it. And if you can handle the dumping and then say, okay, now I understand, this is where we throw in the wrench. And sometimes it might be a supplement or whatever else we talked about today. But 1,000%, I feel like that's the foundational piece, and it goes way farther than anyone comprehends. And then tying it back in with the physicians, it's not their role. It's not their lane.
No.
It's not why they got into medicine.
No, and they're not going to provide all that. I mean, some, sure, but not a lot of them will. And a trick I also like to do with clients who are in this space, who you can tell they're just not feeling safe. You can tell there's so much going on. A really quick way you can get someone into that right hemisphere and shut down anxiety is have them close their eyes and think about, like, if they love to bake, what is the most beautiful cake you could ever bake? What does it smell like? What are the ingredients? What is the process? If you do that, or what's the most beautiful, like, where's your safest space? So, like, for me, I love hiking, and like one of my favorite things to reminisce on is like looking up and seeing light come through green leaves. Doing that shuts down anxiety and puts you into creative, and it turns down the nervous system. So you could even have them do that at the beginning of your session, and then they can come in a little more grounded. So it's really simple stuff, but they can do that by themselves anytime to help regulate a little bit better. But like, some people are like, that's a little woo-woo. And I'm like, sure, go ahead and try it. And then you're going to be crocheting before you know it.
Yeah, I there's been so many times with the client, I'm like, all right, I'm about to go woo-woo on you.
Yeah.
But like we have to go there. I gotta poke at it because it's tangible. It's tangible, it's free, and it's worth it. Like, you see the difference, you feel the difference, and then you have that anywhere you are in the world, anywhere. If you don't, who's going to carry supplement bottles around with them? Nobody. I
No,
don't
and
want
you can't
nobody
just be
doing
like
that.
adrenal
No,
cocktails all day long. That's
no.
not going to do it.
When you're looking through the neuro lens, it sounds to me like we're talking a lot about that foundational, and it sounds like the switching of the hemispheres, kind of how I feel like of the switching of the operating systems. And I know you said look it up, and I know you talked about biofeedback, and I would love to touch, because we're going to talk on the red light and stuff in your upcoming interviews, but I personally love biofeedback.
Okay.
But I'm going to tell my story after you kind of update our audience here. What is neurofeedback? How is it used in the neuro world? How does that tie into nutrition? If you can kind of break it down a little bit.
Yeah. So I got into neurofeedback because my son had PTSD. And he had play therapy and all these other modalities of therapy, and it's not moving the needle enough. And so one of the therapists was like, you should really try neurofeedback. And I was like, I have no idea what that is. So looked it up, got into it, and to make it extremely simple, there's different versions of it. So for the version my son was doing is he has a sensor on the right and left hemispheres of his brain in different parts. And they're EEG sensors. So if anyone doesn't know what EEG is, it's measuring that electrical signal on the surface level of the brain. It does not get deep penetration. So we're not talking about like cerebellum, any of that. We're talking like very, very top layer. But it tells us what's going on with brain waves. And there's different brain waves that you want to be in. And so for him, he would watch a show and he would have these sensors. And the show would get a little grainy and he couldn't hear the sound if he was in a brainwave that was more hyper aroused or in fight or flight that would be associated. And then he would have to focus and calm, and it would regulate his brain into another wave system. So it's like alpha, beta, things like that. It would bring him back into that, and then the sound would come on the TV and the screen would get focused and he could watch his movie. So the first time he did it, it was in and out the entire time. I had to leave the room because I got a headache because I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much. But after a year of doing it, he was just watching shows straight through. And it helped so much with just his remembrance of trauma and his experience of trauma. My son also has autism and ADHD, and I know neurofeedback is used for that by helping manage brainwaves. We didn't really see a huge improvement there, but when it came to his anxiety and his PTSD, it helped substantially, and I know quite a few other people it's helped with. But the woman I met that I ended up doing research with, her son was doing it for OCD. And so he had a completely different experience than my son. Same exact modality of watching a show, but different brain waves that are involved in that as well. So some people can do neurofeedback at home. They have little screens you can take with you. Some people don't even do a screen. I think some of them do different sensors and you like kind of play in sand. So there's different ways of doing it. This is the only one I've had experience with, though.
Thank you so much for sharing your
Yeah.
experience with your son. When I was working at Age Management, we did a brain program and we brought on a neurofeedback. So I got to read the books and go to the trainings and do all that beautiful things. And exactly like you were saying, there's different energy points. There's 31 of them, if I remember that number correctly, on the brain. And each one of them will have like a different vibration or brain wave. The biofeedback that I had done with my son was the one I put together. I went right back to my old office. I'm like, okay, let's do this. But it's low energy neurofeedback system. So we call it the lens treatment. And really what that is, you do a few sites every time you go in. You did it once a week. And you can do, start with short bursts and then you can go longer and you can attune the machine to the aggression that you want. My son was young. He was like 6. But he had also had write-ups in kindergarten and first grade and wasn't paying attention. And he was the destructive one. And we're like, okay, like something's got to give. And I'm not okay with medicating at this point. And I did a background on my son here. So you can go check out that podcast and learn his full deep dive. But after 6 sessions, it was like a night and day where the teacher looked back and was like, he sat down all day. Like he did all his work today. This is great. Like he was never aggressive or anything. He just can't sit still. Like he just couldn't fully think before he acted.
Sure.
But for his, it was not a screen. So what they would do, they would put 1 to 3 neurons or electrodes on the neuron points. And then we would turn the lights down low and he would have to close his eyes for maybe 10 seconds, 20 seconds, depending on how long we were doing it. And what was happening is the electrode was reading the brain wave of what was already given. And then it was feeding that right back into the brain. So it was kind of like an exercise to the brain. So for the brain waves that were stuck, suppressed, right, in the brain mapping, we would see that they were very suppressed, right? They didn't have flexibility. And then for other ones that were stuck really high, really excitatory. And so when it reads the brainwave at a neutral tone, low light, eyes closed, that's your baseline, right? So it was reading the baseline and then putting the baseline back into the brain. And so what it was doing was trying to create some flexibility where some of those neurons were stuck, excitatory or depressed or, And so it ends up being an exercise for the brain.
Mhm.
And that's how I looked at it. And that's how I felt. He had a lot more flexibility in his emotions, a lot more flexibility in the moments he was able to think before acting, a lot more flexibility of being able to sit there and look at paperwork for an hour and trying to do that. So just wanted to share another biofeedback and how powerful it is, even on the babes.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, my son was
yeah.
5 when he started.
Okay.
I will if anyone has children who have had trauma, they cannot do the closing the eyes. Most of them cannot do a brain map because it is overwhelming for their nervous system to have to close their eyes.
Interesting.
So it's totally different if you're going the PTSD route, just if anyone has that experience.
Well, thank you so much for adding that,
Yeah.
because you're schooling me today.
Oh, I'm not trying to school you, just trying to add layers.
Oh no, please. No, add the layers, school me. I'm good with it all. It is super, super powerful though, the neurofeedback.
Yes.
I'm so happy you brought that up too. I do want to touch on when we were talking about the berberine and the oil of oregano.
Yes.
Oh, my heart hurts.
Oh, that's just standard operating procedure.
It is. It is. Even when I worked, not at age management, at another high-end functional office for 5 years, like, we eventually had to cut off the physicians on recommending supplements.
I know, it's too much.
Because it's too much.
I know.
But especially with the berberine, because they're like, oh, your A1C is high. Pretty much everybody, right? First line offense, berberine.
Yep.
So by the time they get to the hour intake with me and they're already on the berberine, now they got other issues or even more gut issues. I'm like, we weren't ready.
Yeah.
And then again, for an hour, for a year, not an hour, doing it for a year.
I know.
Yes, like the caveat with supplements, with herbs in general, they are so multifaceted. And we just listen to the one particular thing that's written on the bottle. I lower A1C. So then for the physician or whatever practitioner that may have not fully investigated berberine in its entirety would not know that berberine is an antimicrobial. Berberine is going to disrupt that whole GI. Berberine, if you push A1C down too low, now we're starving the body of energy too, and of that glucose. Like, there are so many caveats to that, that I just wanted to bring that full circle again. I know it's kind of off topic, but I've just seen it so much, especially with berberine, that I just want to throw it out there in case anybody in the audience has experienced this, and I'm sure you have. Find a CNS.
Well, and also, like, if you're still in school and you have an opportunity to take a botanicals class, take it. Because you'll learn dosing on berberine, when to bring it in, when to pull it back. Because we do need to introduce antimicrobials at some times, but maybe that's aloe vera and a very low antimicrobial package instead of the full powerhouse of berberine. Maybe it is oil of oregano, but maybe we're dosing it for like a day or two. Maybe, there's a lot of conversation in those botanical classes, and they also get into like, hey, we could do the same thing with milk thistle and everybody's gut is just fine. Maybe we look at artichoke leaf. So there's so many cool layers in the botanical world, but I think sometimes people forget that like botanicals can be just as potent as pharmaceuticals.
Oh,
and like
it's not weak sauce.
No, and they're also pushing your detox in a lot of ways people don't think about. Like, you might have a client who their phase 1 detox is great. You get into phase 2 and, we're not moving. It's not happening. And then you're cycling phase 1 and they feel miserable. If you get into more of those botanicals, you kind of figure out like, oh, this fits into this phase. This fits into this phase. We're supporting the liver and the gallbladder and the GI. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention this, but anytime we're doing anything with the gut, we also want to think about the liver, because most people don't know that bile actually supports astrocyte health in the brain. And so if you have depressive clients who are on a lot of berberine, you might also be looking at, we're not getting bile to them. We've disrupted the gut completely. Like, now we've taken all those little cells that are so important for brain health and we are killing them. So we want to make sure we really are doing everything with gut and liver and bile and maintaining. And so if you see someone who's on oil of oregano for a year, just give them a hug and be like, I love some IgG. What do you think about that? And not doing oil of oregano.
Honestly, I do not recommend oil of oregano. It's so harsh. It's not
harsh.
needed. It's not needed. It's going to mess with the mucosa, and like reading stool tests, sometimes multiple a day. The labs are getting really creative with like showing what is even effective for killing the specific bacteria. And I'm not joking. I don't think in the last 7 to 8 years, like it's been over 25%. So what's the point? What's the point if
Mhm.
it's just going to cause acid reflux, if we're just going to make it more leaky, if it's just going to hurt, and it kills the good bacteria too.
Mhm.
So for all those who microdose oil of oregano every time you feel like you got a cold, please stop. All this CNS, and we just be careful. Okay, maybe not please stop, but
But maybe
it
think
is
about some
powerful.
zinc.
Yeah, there's options. There's other options out there that can, or vitamin C, right? Most powerful antiviral we have, and so underused. Like
Mhm.
so
Absolutely.
underused.
Absolutely. There's
Or citrus in general.
so I mean, quercetin, the amount of things like truly eating an apple, throw some onions
Yeah.
and some things like you can eat all of this if you want to. Yeah, there's so much that, and I do think sometimes as a CNS we can also get caught up in the supplement
Oh,
game.
totally.
And I kind of live for the clients who are like, you can give me two. I'm like, challenge accepted. I see
Yep.
you. And, you know, one of my favorite ones to give right now is a bone broth as like a drinking
Oh,
tea.
yeah.
I love doing that for an afternoon because I'm like, you want some good multivitamins? You want some protein? You want some collagen? Sip on this for a while. And then gut health is changing. I mean, so it really forces you to be creative, which I kind of love that space. I love a challenge and having to be creative.
Me too. And having food as our tool. Like I feel like that's so, I say formless, and that's just kind of how I view it because
Mhm.
it's just there, right? We need it. Like we can't really go without it.
Yeah.
Um, talking about favorite supplements and how you were talking about bile. You continue to learn, right? I've learned a lot on this call, and we just continue to learn. And even when you're taught gut health, you're not taught about the bile piece. You're taught about
No.
start upstream, right? Mouth
Mm-hmm.
and H. pylori, and start upstream, go down. But I feel bile's definitely touched on, but not in the way that you put it with the brain health, or it's not shown also in the way it stabilizes blood sugar, stores
Uh-huh.
fat, clears out the liver, like it has an impact in bowels and recirculating.
I mean, neurotransmitters, it absolutely helps with generation of dopamine and serotonin as well in the gut. I mean, it is vital.
The product, and I want to catch your face on it,
Okay.
that I have started adding to almost everybody, if appropriate, obviously, is Tudka. Are you
Oh,
familiar with
yes.
Tudka? Do you use
Love
Tudka?
it.
Are you
Yes.
okay? So you're in love with that as I
Yes.
am, because I have discovered this and started using it, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of gold.
It
Like
is.
this is a starter. Like this, like I started putting that in my prep phases for the right people. Started
Uh-huh.
putting my daughter on it. Her podcast is on here too. Like she was a mess, but the depression, the anxiety, she had a parasite, she had some SIBO, leaky gut, like all that hyperthyroid, like it just threw her whole body off. So
Ah,
after I layered, cool, a lot of it went away, but there was still one piece that was missing, the Tudka with fats. The girl loves avocado. She loves fats and sugar, fats and salts, right? Of course, with her
sure.
makeup and what she's been through, fats and salts is where it's at. And so I'm like, okay, we gotta manage this a little bit. She's still only 11. I'm not going to restrict her eating. But the Tudka
It's fantastic.
magic.
Yes. I
Yes.
even know clinicians who are CNSs who do TUDCA enemas for clients who are
True.
like
What?
really stuck, really having a
True.
hard time. We're not moving the needle. They'll do TUDCA enemas and they can literally feel their gallbladder like contract while they're doing it. And then they have like cholesterol come out and they can see the cholesterol in the toilet. It is a
Jana,
thing.
you're blowing my mind right now. Like what?
Yes. They mix it in these they take a Tudka capsule, they put it in the water that they're going to use. Some of them will also do it with coffee and I'm like, I think we've gone a step too far. This might now be an addiction. Maybe we just stick with one or the other. I don't think I wouldn't recommend doing both. Some people do both and love it. But especially those people with SIBO. I don't know what it is about a Tudka enema. It like clears so much and resets so much and just like pulls and it really gives like a cleanse, and not in like the juice cleanse way, right? Like pulling that cholesterol, like whatever, if there's anything gunking up that that bile or that gallbladder as well. It helps like thin a lot of it out. And so they will do TUDCA enemas. And yeah, and it's interesting because the more they've done them, the less of like the really big cholesterol molecules they can see. Like it kind of helps balance some of that out. So you really see like some of this is not just physiological from like what's showing up after you do it, but like things can, they can get stuck. You can get a lot of gunk in your gallbladder and like your bile's just not as thin, which people don't think about that either when they are looking at some of these people. Like, do we need to thin out your bile? Oh no, bile is I feel like someone should just teach an entire class on bile.
I agree. I 1,000% agree, because as much as we're praising TUDCA, don't give it with a kidney patient, right?
No.
Like,
Oh my
don't
gosh,
give it.
no.
There are so many still, like with all supplements, right? Because you don't want to dump bile like that.
No.
Like there's
And you'll
definitely a
know
time and a
too.
place.
Yeah, some people, if you've never worked with anyone, if you don't know if you're dumping bile, because this happens a lot with GLP-1 clients, if you don't know, typically if someone is getting nauseated after meals, or especially like 20 minutes after meals, if it's like a overwhelming nauseated feeling, there is a likely dumping of bile going on, and that can be an indicator for you. So if you're not sure what to look for that.
Especially if they run constipated.
Yes.
Open that. Oh my God.
Yes.
Open that, and then move up to gallbladder.
Yes.
Don't start with gallbladder.
Yeah, no.
So
Oh gosh.
right. I feel like I had to say that, because in the beginning I'm like, we're taught start from the top, work your way down. But I wanted to correct myself. Like, we got to think clinically for that person, and what's going to be appropriate for that dumping also. And just because I jumped in, TUDCA is a molecule. And so it's not necessarily like a nutrient, and it's a molecule. Usually the dosing starts at 250 milligrams, and you want to do it with a high fat meal. For anyone who's listening and going to take it into their own hands, I'm at least going to give you some guidelines with it. Start once a day, high fat meal, 250 milligrams, nice and low, and just kind of see how that shifts. And you can't find it many places either. There's only like 2 companies that I know carry it. I brought it up to my ortho rep. She's like, so what are you using? I'm like, y'all need to come out with a citrospectin, and y'all need to come out with a TUDCA, please.
Well, and for anyone who's like, well, what if I want to use TUDCA and I suspect there's like bile sludge? So thin that out first. Castor oil packs, fantastic for this. Introduce some of that, a little molybdenum, introduce that combo for a little while. You'll thin some of that out, and then you could utilize this. Just a little asterisk.
God, I love it. I pronounce it wrong. I call it molybdenum.
Yeah.
My tongue just don't.
You're like the other M. It's magnesium and its cousin. That one.
Right, that one is another one of my top end recommendations, because it's so upstream, so gentle. We're not pushing too hard, but it is so protective, is what I'll use. So protective to the system. Open up detox, blood sugar, cellular, the whole 9 yards. Like, we can take a single nutrient, very low dose, and still move mountains in the body when you know what to look for and what you're doing and how long it takes. Like, it's so cool.
Yeah,
it's so
awesome.
Cool. And I love that we kind of seem aligned in some of those products too, because I think they're very underutilized.
And they're so simple. I mean,
so
who thinks about castor oil anymore? But it works.
All the time. It works. There's a method to the madness. There's a reason it has survived the last probably over 200 years now, if you think from the 18th century.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to bring one more correlation to wrap it and bring it full circle back into brain health, of how we got to the gallbladder, cholesterol, and the brain. So for anybody who does not know, because I know in our world, if you're still coming out of our 90s medical world, cholesterol is bad, right? It's bad, bad, bad. So someone with high cholesterol, I can kind of see them hearing this and be like, ooh, I got another thing, skip that red yeast rice. A, don't do that. B, the cholesterol, especially looking from a CNS standpoint, this is the template of your body. It's the template of your hormones. It's the template of your brain health. It's the template of the structural pieces of your body. And so, yes, we want to get rid of some, and we're saying, hey, let's dump some out. But there is a balance. Again, we're coming back to balance, right? Too much cholesterol, sure, it's going to be stored as fat. We can block some pathways, and sure, it's not okay. But the truth is, when you can balance cholesterol and you can have an optimal amount of cholesterol, and that's being processed properly through the liver with the bile, it will balance the body. It will balance the hormones. It will balance the brain. It will give you the foundation that where all the other nutrients that you put in can now actually create a structure. But without that cholesterol balance, you can shove all the nutrients you want. Like, you can do all of that, but you're not going to be able to create that structure. And so it's going to demantle, and you're going to kind of go in circles. So I just wanted to bring that full circle, but have you kind of jump in if there's another layer of that into brain health that you wanted to touch on.
It kind of brings us back to mitochondria, because cholesterol, it maintains your cell membranes. I mean,
There
you
it
can't
is.
even have your mitochondria function without it. But and I'm glad you were like, wait, hold on, let's caveat this for anyone who's like, I have high cholesterol, I'm gonna go do a ton of enema.
Yeah,
Like,
woohoo.
we're really talking about liver that is needing that support. We're not talking about someone who is like, hey, I'm doing so great, my cholesterol is slightly high, I'm gonna go dump it. We're not talking about that person. I also would not recommend this for anyone with that.
Agreed.
Like, that's not the goal.
Agreed. In general, enemas can be addicting. That is a thing. So she wasn't joking
Get a
when
dopamine high from those.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a real thing. People do get addicted to those. But they're also they could be very hard on the system, and they could be very too much of anything, right? All medicine, all poison is in the dosing. Nothing different with this, even though you're not intaking it internally through your mouth. You absorb everything through your colon, and that's part of the point of it. So I would, even though we're talking about it and it's great, it was not a recommendation without a CNS or a physician or a provider that understands what they're doing, what the goal is, how to do it, and the dosing.
Yes.
So
If
find
you've
your
never
CNS.
done an enema with anyone before, this is not the one to start with. This is not the
Definitely not.
educational level to go.
Nope. Nope. Thank you so much for allowing me to kind of just button that conversation up a little bit for our audience.
No, sure.
Jana, this has been absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
I have learned a lot. I've truly enjoyed our conversation. And for anyone listening, I hope that you have enjoyed it just as much as us, have been educated just as much as me from Jana. And we are going to continue the conversation and get a little bit more into her research and that side of the world on another future episode of the Journal Club coming up. And I just forgot one special question that I end all of my podcasts on. And Jana, do you happen to have a myth that you would like to debunk for us today?
Oh, that you can detox with a juice cleanse.
I love it. Please elaborate to all those listening.
I mean, juice cleanses are, they cycle around, I feel like, every so many years. And people are like, I'm going to lose weight and I'm going to be healthy and I'm just going to drink juice all day and do a fast for a week. And all you're doing is destabilizing your metabolism and your gut and your liver and your brain health and your poor little mitochondria, and just shoving a lot of sugar into your body instead. And you're going to be really grumpy. So you're not going to detox, but you are going to make yourself pretty miserable.
Yep. 1,000%. 1,000%. It's been very, very rare that I have recommended juicing in general. There is a time and place for it. There definitely is. And I've used it and it's been super, super productive. But in general, juicing in general, you take out the fibers, you take out the enzymes, you take out the parts that your mitochondria needs, your gut health needs, everything for energy, everything that you need to balance. And again, we're not looking for depletion anymore, right? Leave that in the 90s. We're way beyond that. We're looking for balance. We're looking to be nourished we're looking for the body's innate wisdom to kind of turn on and say, I got everything I need. This is what I got to do for you. Let's be a team here.
Mhm.
And starving your mitochondria, your cells of nutrients is not going to get you the goal, no matter what the goal is in health. Thank you so much for today.
Yeah.
Thank you for all of our audience for being here today and listening today. If anyone is listening and they're like, oh, girl, I need you.
Oh.
How do I find you? Where are you? Like my daughter, my son, I got to talk this neurofeedback out a little bit more. How did they find you? Where did they go? What is that process?
So if you're in Austin and you want an in-person visit, you can go to Texas Wellness Collective and you can find me there. If you want telehealth and you're just wanting a conversation, you can check out my website. It's roseginger.com. I also have a blog. I talk about a lot of the stuff we just talked about. So if you're a CNS and you're like, what are you talking about with bile? There's a whole blog on there. Go wild. So I get into kind of the nitty gritty of some stuff that we don't dive too deeply into in school. Because we're always learning, right? Need to learn
Always
more.
learning.
So
Always learning. Never stopping.
Thank you so much, Jana, for sharing your expertise with me today. And thanks to our listeners for tuning in today for this episode of CNS Unfiltered. If you're a CNS, how has your niche impacted your practice? Send me an email. I'd love to hear about it. If you're looking for a CNS or functional medicine office, remember to do your research. It's important to know what green flags and red flags to look for when finding an expert to help you. To get in touch with Jana, find her at Texas Wellness Collective if you're local to Austin, Texas. If you're not local, check out roseginger.com to learn more. If you're a future or current CNS or functional medicine practitioner, medical professional, or functional medicine patient, we want to hear from you. If you have questions, comments, or success stories, send us an email at cnsunfiltered@gmail.com. If you're a functional medicine practitioner and you're interested in being interviewed, click the link in the show notes. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen. Follow at Innate Clinical Nutrition so you don't miss a new episode. And share this with a colleague or a classmate who might need to hear it. Once again, I am Jana Salisbury, and remember to listen to your gut.